It's been 2 years since I started this indie development nonsense. 3 years till I think I'm out of money in my bank account. Why am I playing with scissors? I could hurt myself. Why am I singing? This is supposed to be a serious video, I think. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Nathan Wolf. I go by Jitspo, and I was in AAA for about 10 years. I worked on Ghost Recon Future Soldier, Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4. Then I went over to a smaller studio, worked on Lawbreakers and Radical Heights. Really loved it there at the smaller studio. Unfortunately, the games were not popular enough to bring in enough money for the studio to stay afloat. Studio shut down, and I didn't really want to go back to a big AAA studio. And I had enough money saved up that I thought, hey, if I don't do this now, I don't know if I ever will. Maybe I'll give the whole indie development thing a try. See if I can make a game all by myself. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple years. I've been working on Fist of the Forgotten, a kind of silhouette-styled platformer, and let's get into some numbers. Like, cost of living is expensive. So I'm relatively lucky. It's just me. So it's about $30,000 a year for me to stay alive, you know. Have a roof over my head, electricity, food, water, things a good healthy body needs. For the first year of development, it was a little over 30,000. This year, it's closer to 27,000. Had a light year. I don't think I even bought toilet paper at all this year. I mean, a lot of that was not necessarily my choice, but fortunately I had a bidet. So, had that going for me, which is nice. As for income, well, I'm not selling my game yet, but thanks to wonderful donors and contributors and stuff on Twitch, I've gotten close to $2,500. Let me just verify that. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, people give me money through bits, donations, and I get a little bit of ad revenue on Twitch. So thanks to that, I've gotten about a month's worth of expenses covered, which is pretty awesome. Didn't expect that. Actually, my first year, I did a little bit of contract work, so the numbers are pretty close. The first year was $2,484 that I brought in, and this year is a little bit more, $2,512, and this year was all just from people like you giving me money, which is incredible. I love it. Thank you so much. So, yeah, that's pretty awesome. But let's look at how much it's going to cost and how many sales I'll need to make in order to break even. So if I break this down by day, it's about $80 a day for living expenses. And that means I've got to sell roughly 10 copies per day of development. You know, give or take a few. I'm rounding these off to nice numbers. If I sell for like 20 bucks, Steam's going to take a cut. There's going to be taxes and all that stuff. So I'm rounding that to a nice, even 10 copies a day. If I get a publisher and they're taking a cut, I'd have to sell more than 10 copies a day. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not yet. But let's say 10 copies a day, which means I need to get about 20 wish lists a day, because theoretically you sell about half of your wish list numbers, and not all of that is from people that wish listed it. So there's a certain percentage of people that wish list the game that buy it, and then there's another percentage that comes from like organic sales. But it's kind of tricky. That number is not super reliable anymore. Algorithms have changed, and people have changed, and everything is all in a state of flux. There have been a number of horror stories about games that have had a huge number of wish lists and sold like 200 copies. So that's scary. But even if I get that 50% of my wish lists, I'm not where I need to be at. Just being completely honest here, not anywhere close to where I need to be at for those numbers. I'm averaging, I think, about 5 wish lists a day. And I would like, I mean, I need that to be probably like 20 a day if I'm going to sell enough copies to break even. And I think that 50% actually kind of depends on you getting into the new and rising categories of Steam, so that your game is not just completely buried in the abyss of new indie titles that are coming out every day. So really, I got to get more like 30 or 40,000 wish lists. I'm sitting at 1,000 right now. I've gotten a couple spikes that are about where I need to be, like on a daily basis. So I had my game featured when Godot put out a new release. Godot is the engine I'm using for Fist of the Forgotten. And they put out a new version release. And when they do that, they take a screenshot of a game that's being built in Godot and use that to help promote the engine and the game. So that was pretty awesome. So I got a nice spike in wishlist from that. And then I had another pretty successful post on Reddit on the Linux Gamers forums and got another spike. But those were kind of like, you know, major breaks that I got. Not something that I can pull off every day, even if I am super ambitious with the marketing. So not quite sure how I'm going to make those numbers. I'm hoping that as I get closer to release, I can put some money into some marketing and get some awareness that way. It's tough. Marketing is, I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. I don't know if I'm going to enlist help from a publisher or PR firm or something like that with that. But I've got some time before the game is ready to sell, so I need to make some more zealous attempts at marketing before I really decide on what I'm going to do with that. So another thing that makes it really challenging is a lot of big platforms like Reddit, where a lot of people get their gaming news, are really strict about self-promotion, and it makes it weird. So I've been very careful. I don't want to break any rules and get my account blocked or whatever, because like the R Gaming subforum basically says you can only have 10% of your posts be self-promotion, and according to the self-promotion rules, anything that you've created counts as self-promotion. So if I make a drawing or a picture or video or an actual like self-promotion trailer of the game, those all count as self-promotion under their, if you look at the strict rules. And then other areas of Reddit are weird because they don't want you reposting stuff from social media or whatnot. So I can't take a funny video of a cat off of Twitter or TikTok or something and post it on that thing because it's not original content and they don't want reposts. So it's like I can't post original content and I can't post unoriginal content. So like what can I post? I don't know. It's weird. But I should probably get more involved in that community. Just one of those things that takes time and commitment. But other than marketing, some game development stuff that I've found challenging over the past couple of years. Level design. I've actually found level design to be surprisingly challenging. I would think that would be one of the most fun aspects of game development, but it's actually kind of difficult to make something that is interesting and challenging, but it's not so challenging that people get frustrated and give up. So it's difficult to find that balance. And then after you've blocked the level out, there's another level of challenge of how do I take this array of platforms and boxes and stuff and convert it into a space that actually looks feasible? Like, where would such a thing exist? Like, I'm trying to make things not just abstract blocks floating in space. Like, I want to have an environment that actually looks feasible. So anytime there's a platform that's floating in space, I've got to build some kind of structure that's going to support that. And it's challenging to figure out like stuff that just makes sense and looks like it would exist. And also, is fun to move around on, because sometimes I make, pipes or something like that, and those have been a problem as well, because the rounded edges make it difficult to land on the edge of them without slipping off, and it's a challenge I didn't expect. Also, cinematics are quite a challenge. I wanted to make this game with no dialogue, so I'm trying to tell the story through animations and cinematics and music and things like that. And boy, just all of the things involved, camera movement, character animation, environment, making a cinematic come alive is a ton of work. I've gained a new respect for people that do cinematic animations. So, yeah, that's a challenge. And another challenge is creative stuff. Like, sometimes you have to be struck by a nice bit of inspiration to make a nice song, and some days I'm not struck by that, and I'm just trying to make something, and it's a lot of just fiddling around and coming up with something I'm not very happy with and end up throwing out. But yeah, part of the creative process. It's difficult to be creative all the time, which is why it's fortunate that I'm doing the whole game solo, so I can bounce around between different tasks. And if I'm not feeling particularly creative, it's possible I could do some programming or something like that that's just very technical. And if I get tired of the technical stuff, then I can switch over and do some creative stuff. The other thing that's been kind of frustrating is I feel like I've always been stuck at 20%. I think I mentioned this in the last video, like last year's recap, that I felt like I was always at 20%, and the start and the finish line are always moving away, and I'm stuck in the same spot. I recently calculated all of the content that I want to have in the game and how much of that I've gotten done, and it came out to roughly 20%, a little bit more. And it's like, wow, it is just the perpetual 20% done. But I'm hoping, as I've learned more and can build stuff faster in Blender and other things, and a lot of the core mechanics are more complete, that knocking out the rest of the content will go a little bit faster. But I'm also wary because there's always more lurking underneath the waters. It's like an iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg and you're like, that's not too bad. And then there's just all of this extra stuff underneath there waiting to be discovered. So I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take to finish this game. Hopefully not too much longer, because I've got a limited amount of money in my bank account. It's just draining down. So if it is legitimately 20% and I need like 6 more years, that's probably going to be a problem. But we'll worry about that when the time comes. Maybe I can do some Kickstarters or other crowdsourcing, or get a publisher to help fund, what have you. Let's look at some things that I think went well. So those of you who are not familiar with my development process, I have what I call the producer here. This is a D20, 20-sided die. Use it for Dungeons and Dragons, but I've also been using it to decide what tasks to work on. Because I've got so many different tasks, it's very easy to get tunnel vision and sit there and focus on one thing and completely neglect everything else. So I'm constantly trying to do different tasks. So I'm getting a nice breadth approach to development. So I'm developing, character animations and level design and sounds and music and all these things. I'm kind of piecing together and slowly building up the whole thing, rather than building up one thing and then building up something else and then realizing these things don't work together very well. So that, I think, has been working pretty well. One change I've made this year is that I've switched to doing 3 tasks a day. So I used to just do one, and the task used to be a lot more generic. It used to be like, make levels and model assets. Now I've gotten more specific things now that I've been working on the game for a bit. It's like, I need to iterate on this level. I need to fix the collision on that. I need to fix this bug. So there are things that don't necessarily take a long time, and there's also things that I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on. So if I just work on one task a day, you know, I can spend 6+ hours on one little thing that somebody's just going to zip right past and hardly take notice of. But if I've only got a couple hours to work on it, that means I'm not going to spend too much time on it. And then I can always go back and iterate on it later. So spending a little bit of time on a whole bunch of different things, I think, has been working out pretty well. Another thing that's been greatly helpful is getting some playtesters to record videos of their gameplay. So I've sent out a few alpha keys, and some people have taken the time to record a video of them playing, and that feedback is super valuable. The feedback that's not actually like spoken or written, but just seeing how people react to different scenarios, what they get stuck on, what they get frustrated with, what they didn't understand. And they may not explicitly state it, but just seeing how people interact with different levels and stuff and being like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't think people would think to approach it that way. Because people with different brains are going to think about things in different ways. So they'll try to solve a problem in a certain way, and that's not how it was designed to be solved. So either I need to make it clear that that's not the way that can be solved, or add a path that makes that a possible solution, or, you know, other various tweaks. And the last thing that I think has been probably the most helpful is streaming every weekday. A lot of people ask me, how do I stay motivated to work on this game day after day for years on end? And it's not motivation. You can't rely on motivation. As much as I hate schedules and discipline, I've discovered that they are kind of necessary to get a project like this done. So if you're struggling with that, consider setting up a very rigid schedule. No matter what you're doing, at X o'clock, do some development. Or do some streaming, live stream it. Even if nobody watches, if you've got something that is a consistent schedule, it kind of helps keep yourself accountable. And then if people watch, they'll start holding you accountable and be expecting you to be streaming at a certain time. And that helps get things done. And honestly, this whole experience, even if it doesn't work out, I've been learning so much. It's been really cool because there's been so much growth in my skills in areas that I didn't get to explore very much while I was working in AAA. Because I would be stuck just doing gameplay programming day in and day out. But now I've had a chance to explore animation and building models and level design and sound design and music. And I've been learning just so many different things. And it's also been cool to see software like Blender continue to grow as I'm growing with it. Like, I'm learning a bunch of the pre-existing features of Blender, and then they're adding new stuff. And it's like, I'm getting all excited about new sculpting features and stuff like that. So that's been really awesome. Let's talk about future stuff. So, like I say, I feel like I'm about 20% done. I'm hoping I can pick up the pace and get that other 80% done faster than the first 20%. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. There's two possibilities there. One is I scale back how much content there is in the game considerably. I'm a little hesitant to do that because I don't want the game to feel super short. I've seen people have comments about games that are 4 to 5 hours long, complaining about them being short, and I'm thinking like, oh boy, I wish I could get 4 to 5 hours worth of content in my game. So if there's only like an hour or two of content, people are probably going to be like, what? And they're not going to want to spend that much money or give it a bunch of negative reviews. So I don't necessarily want to do that. Hopefully I can get some, well, hopefully I can finish it soon. If not, hopefully I can get some financial backing. My stream has been slowly growing, so maybe I'll get a little more runway from donations and stuff. I might do some more contract work, some other things to get some funds in, or maybe just some more something like Kickstarter or Fig. Get some grassroots supports, some crowdfunding. Don't know yet, but I've still got runway left in my bank account. So just keep going, business as usual, and hopefully something awesome comes out of it. I do want to take a moment and thank my patrons who have been awesome at supporting me. It kind of boggles my mind that people are just giving me money to support me through this process. It means a lot. And hopefully I can find a special way to repay all the contributors. I'm hoping to have some kind of like in credits type thing that is an interactive and fun way to show some support for the people that supported me. If you do want to watch the Twitch streams of my development, you can go to twitch.tv/Jitspo. If you want to check out more information on Fist of the Forgotten, you can go to fistoftheforgotten.com or search for it on Steam. If you add it to your wish list, that would be a great help to me. I think that's about it for this year's indie recap. So good luck surviving the rest of 2020. Be awesome.